Well, welcome back to the Middle-aged Bodcast. It's season 3, Bodcast Bootcamp, and I am one of your co-hosts, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shalano.
T.A., we are here. We have a very special guest today.
Yeah, Rich, not only is it our 10th guest episode across all the seasons, but it's a real red letter day today because we're joined by a world kickboxing champion, and not just a one-times champion.
Not just a 2-times champion.
Not just a 3-times champion.
Not even a 4-time champion.
Not even 5-times champion.
Sorry, Booker T. Not even a 6-times champion.
But a 7-times world champion. It's Tammy Lee! How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. I don't think we thought we'd get a world champion on an interview, so that is quite something for us. So yeah, thanks very much for being here with us today. So seven times world champion, that's incredible. And we know that obviously your latest victories were over in Greece, I think in October. I think your sister, did she also win out there as well? So it's like a real proper family of world champions. So that's incredible, really. And many congratulations, obviously, to you and your sister around that. So tell us a bit more about how and when you got into kickboxing.
Oh, I think it was from when I was like 6 years old. My dad just pushed me forward for it and then just loved it ever since. Didn't really start competing till I was 9, 10, and then just never looked back then. It was just always a good day out, always on a Sunday.
What is it that you enjoy the most about kickboxing, and how have you maintained your commitment to it through your life?
I think it's the friendships that you build through it. It sounds a little bit cringy, but it makes a big difference. So the people that I started with, they don't necessarily still do kickboxing, but I still keep in touch with them, and then you make new friends. And because we travel internationally, I've got friends like all over the world that we catch up with when we go do international competitions. So I think that it just keeps the fun into it.
If you take us back then, say, I mean, unfortunately, Rich and I don't know a great deal about being world champions of anything. I mean, I know obviously you are in weight classes, I think, obviously, in that kind of thing. And I think yours is the below 65 kilos, is that right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think Rich and I, we're competing in the above 120 kilos, and it's not in kickboxing. It's more like pizza eating and drinking beer. But so we don't know the life of a world champion. So if you took us back, say, about this time last year, what sort of preparations then would you be making to not only go on to compete in those world championships in Greece, but to win?
I think the main thing is regular competitions. So I think to keep yourself motivated for when it comes to the final one in October, you have to be going to regular competitions, not just for keeping the standard up, it's just more to keep you interested and wanting to push forwards to win. And I think, so the main thing for me, it would be training. So the training plays a big part. If I have a week off training, I already get demotivated straight away. So the main thing is to try and keep on top of training. And then when it comes closer to the time of the World Championships, I pick the training up. So 12 weeks before we go, I tend to train. I'll go from 3 days training a week to 5. It's really intense, but I think going back to training with your friends and stuff, it just makes the atmosphere a lot better. So you want to go rather than, oh, I have to go train today because I need to do it for this. It's like your friends are there, you're having a good laugh, but you're also training really hard. So that also helps as well. And then I think the biggest thing is the weight loss in that 12 weeks. So just cutting that, making sure you're maintaining that weight. So I'd say from June, I tend to start getting ready to cut weight so I don't have to drop it so quick. And then in that 12 weeks of the training camp, it will just be trying to maintain it. And I personally don't struggle with the weight loss, just because I don't tend to eat much anyway. But the people who I teach, and my sister, I know that she struggled a lot this time. So it was just helping them as well. So for me, it'll be getting myself motivated, but also trying to keep my sister motivated, keep the guys that I take with me to compete motivated as well.
So if you're normally doing sort of 3 days and then you go up to the 5, so how many hours a week do you normally do versus then when you're building up to the competition?
So I do around, I think it's 3.5 hours already in the week, just like standard training, and then I'll take that up to about 6 hours in the week. So and then sometimes if I do a Saturday session, it'll be a 7.5 hours in the week.
So it's quite a big commitment as well, then, isn't it? You have to fit in around your life, so you're keeping that motivation.
Definitely.
Obviously, you say you didn't do, you don't maybe eat a lot, but in terms of then that diet, do you have a sort of a strict diet plan? Are there things that you definitely can't, eat, drink, etc.?
I think my main thing throughout the year anyway is sweet stuff. So I cut that out straight away from June onwards. Quite depressing, but it helps. And then for me, it'll just be calorie counting. So keeping myself to 1,100 calories throughout the day. And that works perfectly for me. And it gives me that flexibility of eating what I like as long as it's within that calorie counting. Because I don't like the word diet. And as soon as anybody says you need to diet, it just goes out the window. But if I know that I can eat what I like as long as I'm maintaining that calorie deficit, then it works for me.
It's quite a commitment, though, isn't it? Because you can't really. There's things you just definitely then can't do. So although we know obviously that in the professional athlete game, etc., you've got people, they've got all these like fitness coaches, diet, but obviously you've got a normal job as well in the background. So it's quite a discipline that you're having to keep there, really, to be able to do that. From that, then, and you've achieved that, and you then sort of go and compete in your sort of weight class over in Greece. Tell us more about that time in Greece and sort of the competition there.
At first, when I got there, I weren't actually really feeling up for it. I'm not sure why. And then I did so we got there on the Sunday, and then on the Monday, it's the open ceremony. So it's where all the countries come together. They carry the flags around. It's a lot like the opening ceremony in the Olympics, but a lot more scaled down. But that made me really up for it. Then you're seeing everybody around, you're sizing all the other competitors up, thinking, oh, am I going to be fighting you? So then that made it pumped you up a little bit for it then. And then on the Tuesday, it was my first fight for the light contact and the kick light. So I had 4 fights on the Tuesday. So the prelims was on the Tuesday. And then on the Wednesday, it was the other discipline. So that would be the semi-contact points fighting. And then Thursday, Friday were the finals for them. And so I finished fighting on the Thursday, and then the Friday, and then the Saturday is the closing ceremony. And then it's the after party and stuff. But I took my family over with me this time. So it was a lot more. It was intense because I was fighting every day, but I felt a lot more relaxed because they were there as well.
So obviously we mentioned that you're a 7 times champion in total, but is it 3 that you collected at this event?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. So you won in every...
I won the light contact discipline and the semi-contact, and then I got a silver this time in the kick light. The kick light was my first ever time doing it. I don't even do it in competitions. So I just thought I'd put my hat in the ring and go for it, which is good fun. I'll probably do it again next year, but I think I'll definitely do more competitions to prep myself because it's a whole different ball game. But so then the other World Championship was from Wales, and it was 3 years ago now. And that's where that third one came from.
That's really interesting though, isn't it, TA, that obviously, Tammy, you say you got a silver in an event that you didn't even compete in normally. I mean, that would never be something that we can certainly say that we'd have any experience of. To not actually have competed in that and then go and to win silver is an absolutely fantastic achievement.
Yeah, it was hard work.
I can imagine. I think the thing that's striking me is you've probably been doing kickboxing now for about 25 years. Yeah. Is that right? I mean, I think that in itself, to maintain as well that commitment and discipline to something for so long, is probably also contributing to being able to then go and participate in an event you don't normally do and still, be successful. And then obviously winning those events that, your main staple kind of events is quite incredible, really.
What's incredible as well is that Tammy's been competing for sort of 25 years almost in kickboxing and at peak of physical fitness. We've known each other for nearly 25 years and have just spent it getting in complete opposite of peak physical fitness.
Well, to a degree, there have been times during that where, we may have been lighter weights and fitter than others, I suppose. But in terms of our commitment and discipline to something like that, no, we should be sitting here absolutely ashamed and trying to be somewhat more motivated as part of Podcast Boot Camp, frankly, to not to become world champions, because I don't think, that's something that I can foresee for you or I, unless I can become a world champion author, or we can become world champion podcasters. I don't know. But yeah, it's quite phenomenal, really.
You've said as well, Tammy, that your family went with you to your last event, the one in Greece. What's sort of been the response from your family to both the success of yourself, but also to your sister, from family and friends and sort of wider community? What's that sort of feedback and response been like?
I think because this one was my sister's first world championship that she won, I've kind of put all of my energy and positivity into her, just because she worked really hard and she cut weight a lot. She had to drop a lot of weight. So I've kind of put all of at my praise, I've pushed it towards her in a way, just because she, I say this all the time. Like, I know I deserve the praise, but I don't know. She'd been trying for years to get a gold at the World Championships. So for me, I was just really proud of her. So I didn't really think about mine. And whenever anybody spoke to me about it, I'd be like, yeah, but my sister did this and she was. So yeah, I just played it off a little bit. So I never really took it in.
I wonder how much she was motivated by obviously your success to keep going. To, it's one thing your sister being a world champion, but then you're trying and you haven't achieved it. It must have been, I say, sort of spurring it on, because obviously, you're obviously both supporting each other, but that must have been a big thing. And then for her to win that, I mean, you both obviously must have such a great motivational mentality to what you do.
Yeah. And I think we kind of push each other a lot. So because I instruct anyway, so it comes natural to me. So I push my sister a lot. But then that feeds off onto me as well. So if I know that she's pushing herself and feeling motivated, it gives me the motivation then, because it's so easy for me to just lack it, just because work gets in the way, like childcare gets in the way. So sometimes you turn up and you're like, I really don't want to do it. But if I know that she's up and ready to go, it gives me that, I'm up and ready to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suppose that's interesting, because there are siblings within other things, aren't there, in disciplines as well, where that must be interesting to have somebody so close who knows what you're going through. I'm thinking more of is it the Brownlee brothers with running and, people like that, where you've got that sort of scenario where, and you've had the Neville brothers in football, obviously,
Williams sisters
in tennis. Yeah, you kind of got these examples where you've got somebody who's close to you who obviously understands that sort of same process that you're going through.
Yeah.
You mentioned sort of briefly there about sort of childcare. Now, you are mother to a young child. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to be honest, I mean, that makes, because going and becoming a world champion in another country, even more impressive, sort of, frankly. I mean, how then particularly did you balance those commitments and retain your focus of that and work and other things to go and do this?
Yeah, I think I'd give credit to my partner. He's been amazing from the start. When I said that we were going to Greece and I qualified for the England team, it was amazing from the start to the finish. So having that support helped massively. And then the days that, because he does some training sometimes as well, so when he comes training, my mum or his mum, they look after the child as well. So my family are the biggest supporters, and they made it possible for me to train as much as I could and attend the competitions that I could, because last year, because I was prepping so much, I was competing once or twice every month, just doing little competitions. So that takes up a weekend really. So my family and my partner have been a really massive support to keep me on track and motivated. I brought him to some of the sessions, but because he wants to get involved, and he's only one, he wants to get involved so much, I can't really focus. So I tried bringing him when I was training, but it just didn't work at the time.
That's going to be quite something for him as he's growing up, though, isn't it? In terms of, he's then going to have, his mum's a world champion, his aunt's a world champion. I mean, how motivational could that be for him? I mean, are you already thinking, get him on the training?
Yeah, I said, look, if that's something that he'd want to do. When he comes to the gym to watch the little kids train, he's getting the pads on, trying to hit the pads and stuff. So he seems interested. And then when we were fighting in Greece, so when I stepped off the mat, he'd start fighting me. So you could tell that he was picking it up a little bit. So I think there might be some element of him wanting to do it, but I wouldn't push him just because I feel like that'd push him further away. So if he wanted to, then definitely.
Yeah, because it can be very difficult, can't it, for the children of world champions and sort of different things where they're trying to then live up to expectations, following the same footsteps. I'm sort of thinking examples of like George Best, and then his son then had struggled. There's been various, and these kids of sort of people who've been successful often find it a bit of a struggle. So I suppose, yeah, maybe he wants to do something else, like you say, but surely being in and around that's got to be kind of quite inspiring and motivating.
Well, it's probably as well, it may potentially get him into a different sport potentially as well. It may not necessarily be kickboxing. He may just get that sort of motivation to take something up, which is just a fantastic thing to sort of be introduced to at a young age, to then sort of give him that kind of motivation.
Yeah, definitely. He's very athletic already. So yeah, I definitely feel like he'd be into some sports.
So in terms of, you've won over obviously a very long period of time of competing, going back to even sort of junior level, you've won, British titles, European titles, and then I think as a youth, you had a victory in, is it the WKA Pro Am under 60 kilos semi-contact, I think it was in 2009, when you'd have been, correct me if I'm wrong, about 15.
Yeah.
So how does becoming a world champion kind of 15 years later compare with the earlier achievements?
I think when I was younger, this sounds quite bad, but they meant more to me. But now it's more of, I have like a bit more of a pressure now to kind of succeed. So for me at the moment, I feel like I have to win, else I'm going to let everybody down. But when I was younger, it was, I really want to win for me. So it meant a lot more. But yeah, I forgot about that one. That one was a challenging one. I think the lady was in her late 20s, and yeah, that was an intense fight. But yeah, so I think when I was younger, it was I fought for me, but now I fight for other people, so it adds that extra pressure and a little bit of extra stress.
I do like that. She said, I forgot about that. Imagine forgetting about winning titles. That's how successful you can be. But the interesting thing I picked up on that was, you said your opponent, I think you said, was maybe in sort of like their late 20s. So you beat somebody who was obviously much older, in that competition as well. I mean, I would say that's quite an incredible achievement in itself as well, really. Were you naturally good as a youth? I mean, in terms of, you got these people who are always kind of ahead of the curve in something, to be competing in that kind of competition at that young age? Were you, I would say, like, a special talent, but do you know what I mean? Where you have these people who they stand out at a younger age in having a talent for something. Is that?
I'm not sure. So as soon as I turned 11, 12, my coach never let me fight in the under 17s. So I was always fighting adults. So maybe he just thought that there was something there that, I was a bit more advanced, maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that probably sounds like they were pushing you because they thought you wouldn't get the same challenge out of maybe competing with people around the same age, that would push you on and I guess make you, make you even better, really.
Yeah.
It's interesting as well. You mentioned you'd forgotten about the win there, because I've seen from a lot of interviews I've seen with sports people that it does seem like, because you're always competing, because you're doing all these different events, and obviously there's the training, there's the sort of the smaller events as well that you compete in, sort of preparing for things. Because you've done so many of them, you kind of forget the ones that you're doing. I've seen it sort of with footballers who go, they forget certain games they've played in and they might have scored a world-class goal. So I think it's that kind of, maybe it's something similar there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think because that was a big fight show for me as well, but because it's like you say, because I do them quite regularly and I'm always out and about, like even if I'm just going there to help support other fighters or whatever, so you do tend to kind of forget the good ones.
Well, speaking about the World Championships this year, they're going to be held in Germany. What preparations are you and your sister undertaking now to sort of go and retain those medals that you won in Greece?
So I think we're doing a lot more training seminars. So we'll be attending different training across the UK, hopefully, to train with different fighters, coaches. That's our main aim, because I think sometimes when you're training with yourselves, you kind of get complacent with certain things. So I think we're going to step outside of our comfort zone a little bit, and try and we're doing a few more international competitions this year that help us prepare a bit more.
That's brilliant. So when you say like the international competitions, are they ones where it's more you can just you get invited to them, or are they ones where you can actually apply to go to them? How does that?
Yeah, so you get invited as a team. So we are in Dusseldorf, 7th of February. So we're there for 2 days. We got invited to go. And then in May, we're in Italy for 4 days. So there's a competition over there. And then there'll be a few more throughout the year as well.
Oh, that's really cool. So you get to go and see quite a lot of these countries when you're traveling around. Do you actually get to see any of the sites when you're there as well, or is it more just go compete and then it's a sort of return home, or do you actually get a chance?
When I was younger, it was a go compete, come home. But as I've got older, we've been doing a lot of extra stays, because I feel like we're going to all of these different places, but we're never actually seeing them. So yeah, we do for the past 3 years. I think we've done extra stays. So we do 2-3 extra days in different places. So just so we get to enjoy it as well. So it doesn't feel like. I remember once when we were, I think it was in France a few years ago. We flew on the Friday night. We fought on the Saturday, and then we were at the airport at something like 4 in the morning. So we literally were in a sports hall, and that was it. And that wasn't enjoyable.
So it's not all glamour.
No.
Right. So, yeah, this World Championships in Germany is to be held in Trier, which is Germany's oldest city.
Oh, wow.
And is an important site for ancient art, treasures and monuments. So it sounds like if you're hanging around there for a few days, there's some old stuff to go and have a look around.
Okay.
Like a tour. There's some old stuff to go and look round. Hey, dear me.
From selling parts of Birmingham to selling parts of Trier.
Trier. Yeah, I've never heard of Trier.
No.
I'm afraid, but yeah, there you go. I mean, the other thing is it's actually spelt more like Trier.
I thought that one.
Yeah, so it's like it's the pronunciation, but it's actually spelt more like, which is ironic, really, for a competing event, because everybody will be trying to beat you. Sorry, I had to do that. But hopefully they will have very, very little chance of stealing your crown. Now, obviously, the whole family affair of this as well, with you and your sister. Now, you've established, I think is it 360 Martial Arts. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so me and my sister kind of took a break from kickboxing for about 4 years. Just work got in the way and stuff like that. And then we wanted to get back into it. So we decided to open our own place. And we were teaching for years for other people anyway. So it just kind of made sense. And then we opened in August 2022. So it'll be our 3rd year running this year. It's gone really well. I say this a lot. It's gone a lot better than expected. I'm not sure why. I thought it'd kind of last a few months and then kind of fizzle out, but no, we've done really well, and it's the classes are really busy. We have children to adults competing for us now as well. So it's good to be going to competitions, not as a fighter, but as a coach.
So how many people have you got sort of attending that then on a regular basis from the children to the adults?
So we have like multiple classes throughout the week. So we have under 10s, we have around 16 children so far, and then the 11s to 17s, there's about 22 of them, and then we have adults, and there's about 20 of those as well. But it goes up in waves. Towards the end of last year, our classes got a lot busier, but then obviously the winter, so people don't want to travel anymore. We have consistently probably around 60 to 70 students
Well, that's amazing. That's fantastic, really, isn't it? To have that many people regular. I mean, again, that's something else then you're having to also factor in, I suppose, around the training. It's another commitment that you've got there, sort of teaching people, which is, added time and pressure as well, which again, you've kind of opened that a couple of years before you've then, gone to Greece, etc. So you've got that in the background. But I think in terms of, you said about, you thought it wouldn't last that long or it would drop off. But I don't know about you, in terms of, and again, you're quite local to us in terms of the West Midlands. If somebody was saying, oh, there's a world champions running that, I think that would be quite inspiring and sort of motivational for people to want to go. And like now, you've got 2 world champions, are obviously running that. I'm not surprised it's popular. And I'm, really glad that you've invited Rich to come down and try it out.
The first session's free.
First session's free.
I'm going to need a lot more.
I'll tell you what, Rich, you and I are going to have to, cut a bit more weight as part of this to even potentially go kickboxing. I think that could be entertaining. It should be the challenge. We've talked about challenges.
Do you want to have a kickboxing match?
We should. That's what we should actually try and do.
Me and you have a fight under an official capacity of a kickboxing match
with a world champion there. I mean, come on.
We could be trained by one each of the sisters.
What, in some kind of like when they've had it with celebrity boxing? Is that where we're at this point? And that's what this is going to become?
I think you call the coaches the celebrities and just the chances.
Oh, dear me. Sorry about that. That's kind of gone slightly off kilter. But I think is that, again, you've been doing that now so that'd be about 2.5 years then.
Yeah.
That's been kind of running. Yeah. So in terms of what's your plans then around that going forward, just maintaining that, or are you looking to expand on that?
Yeah, so I'm in a bit of a thought process at the minute, so I don't know whether to trial it full time or try going part time with my full time work and trying to up classes. So I'm just trying to see which route's best really, because I really enjoy teaching, really enjoy coaching, and it's the family aspect for me. So we push, it's a family run gym. I just really enjoy that kind of side. So I think at the moment we'll stick to the part time, but my future plans would be to do open a full time gym, which would be my dream.
Fantastic. And in terms of competing, then going to Germany, are you planning again just to continue with the competing, or is there a point where you think you'll retire?
Yeah, so I was hoping that I wouldn't really compete much this year, but then I was asked to manage a sponsored team. So the people who make like the pads and the gloves and the fight suits and stuff, they reached out and asked if I'd manage a team of 7. So I picked 7 fighters from the UK, some of the best ones, and then so I've included myself into that just so I can keep myself motivated a little bit. So my plan was to not compete this year, but now I've got this team, I kind of have to compete. So which is good for me. It keeps me into it. It gives me not an excuse to kind of say, oh, I'm just coaching now. I can relax a little bit. So yeah, I think it'll be a good year.
And I think for them as well, then being coached as well by a current world champion, that's got to be quite something. If you yourself are trying to become a champion, that's quite something that I think would be useful. Like you say, there's people from across the UK as well that are part of that. So that sounds interesting.
That's brilliant. Yeah. So I guess as well, it's not just the coaching and things from sort of the training. It's things you'll sort of pick up from seeing them compete as well that you can give advice on, and even sort of find things yourself, I suppose, from seeing other fighters competing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
That's really cool.
On that point, is there any one person or multitude of people that motivated you when you were kickboxing as a youngster?
There were quite a few, to be fair. No one really competes anymore. There was one, but he's gone into the UFC now, Michael Page. I think he was a really great coach. He was the England coach at the time. And then it was really the people that I was training with. The club that I started with was one of the best in the UK. So as soon as we entered a competition, everyone was like, oh, they're here. For us, it was a great thing, but for them, it wasn't. So it was literally just the people that I trained with and my instructors at the time, because they were all really good.
So, Tammy, you've mentioned obviously that you competed in Greece. You won your world championships there. Your sister also won her first world championship, and obviously with 360 Martial Arts, you're also working together with training future athletes and people in kickboxing. How do you sort of find it working with your sister? What's that like?
Difficult. She's not easy. And I say this to her all the time, so it's nothing new. She is a lot more laid back than I am, so I am the person who gets things done, but I don't like it lingering around a little bit. So if it can get done on the day, great. But she'll be like, oh, we can wait till next week. I'm like, no, there's no next week. We do have our little arguments, nothing major, but it is difficult. But then when we train together, it's not as bad. But she's not very good at thinking ahead, I'd say. So I do all the thinking, and then so yeah, it's difficult to say the least.
So what we're saying there, TA, is that I need Tammy to train me when we have our theoretical kickboxing match, because I'm quite laid back and I'll leave it till later. So I need Tammy to motivate me to beat you.
So are you saying I'm more of Tammy's mindset, that I'm more get on with it, get it done, and get it edited, and all this sort of stuff in this kind of environment? Is that what I mean? Okay, well, that's interesting. But I mean, I was just reflecting on the fact that how your sister's going to feel when she listens to this.
We have this conversation all the time. But yeah, so I'm more of the harsh one, and she's more of the. We both have similar teaching styles. I'm just a bit more strict than she is.
Has there ever been the potential where you could have competed against each other in an event?
I don't think so. But funnily enough, when I was like 10, my brother used to do it, and he's just starting to get back into it. We had to fight in a competition. Because it was a mixture of boys and girls. It was only a small little tournament, and he doesn't take losing well. And then I beat him, and we didn't speak for nearly 2 weeks.
Wow, there you go. It must be difficult being a sibling of Tammy's. It's like beats up her brother in competition. She's there, yeah. Go at my sister, get on with it. Come on, this is why I've won 7 and you've only won 1. You're too slow, blah blah. And then took 4 years off. I mean, and come back to the world champion. I mean, imagine if you're competing year in year out. You go to the tournaments. They go, Tammy's here. She's just had 4 years off. And they go, oh yeah, great. And you get in there and you just get belted. And you're like, huh? It must be like playing football with David Beckham or something. You get played for years and you go and it just absolutely just run rings round us. Oh dear, that's quite something. I've realised now we're gonna have to get a sister on to then do this the other way around to get the other shot of this.
Yeah, she would 100% agree.
Well, maybe we should have done it with both of them, and then this is played out as a dynamic. Okay, now not everyone can obviously become a world champion. I think we accept that, but obviously a big thing about what we've been doing, with this podcast is obviously looking at improvement, in a variety of ways. As a 7 times world champion, what are your top tips to help people improve? And not just physical, but anything really in terms of the mentality, etc.
I think it's difficult, especially when you're an adult, because I think life can be tough. But I just think the main thing is kind of try and be as positive as you can, and if you're focusing on something, whether it's a fitness goal or a work goal, you have to kind of set yourself little targets. If you're just aiming for one big thing and saying, I'm going to reach that, it doesn't happen. So you have to set yourself those little goals, like, okay, this week I'm going to take this step forwards. And I think that helps me, definitely, and it keeps me on track with anything, like with work or with teaching or fighting. You have to set yourself those little goals, because I think when you're thinking so broadly, it really puts you off, and I think it scares you a little bit, so you kind of take a step back, and then it just doesn't happen. The goals that you set out doesn't happen. So I think definitely keeping yourself those little aims, and then each time you set those aims, there's like a little win, like inside, and you're like, oh, I've done that today, and then it keeps you wanting to go a bit more as well. So definitely trying to keep yourself motivated with in that way, and then also lean on people for support. I've got some of the biggest support, which I'm quite lucky with, and I do recognise some people don't have it, but there was always that one person out there that can support you in something, even if it's someone to talk to, shout at. Definitely, just keep on pushing forwards with it, I think.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you very much for obviously being here with us today. I think we're sort of pretty much ready to sort of start sort of wrapping up and sort of allow you on your way to go and beat some people up or train, is the more appropriate way to say that. No, thank you very much for joining us today. I think it is genuinely very inspirational that you've been able to obviously win, so many of these tournaments now, and obviously over a long period of time. And then, as you say, to sort of come back, and do that and set up the, the instructing people, teaching people and all of that, it's fantastic really to have you here speaking about that today. So, massive congratulations on, your achievements and obviously your sister becoming world champion as well. We would obviously like to say, well done to her for persisting as well to make it to become world champion, because that is no mean feat for anybody. So well done. And Rich, we do normally have a tradition now, do we not, with our guests?
Yes. So the tradition is, Tammy, that the guest sort of closes out the episode with anything that they want to say. So we will offer up the podium to you for finishing off the episode, please.
Well, I'm glad you offered the podium because she stood on it that many times already.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for having me. I have actually enjoyed it. And yeah, just keep on going with whatever you're doing. It'll work out in the end, and keep on smiling. Thank you.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Two best mates here to take you to stand. Rachel, Rich, and TA got your health in the hands. Williams, laughs, and tales they tell. For beats and nights, the workouts, they're keeping it real. Oh, it's the middle